Hello and welcome to a introduction to Xcode. This is a short video that will go through all the basic things around Xcode. So you will feel comfortable when you're about to write your very first app. When you start Xcode, you get this little window. What we're going to do is create a very simple project and focus on how Xcode works, not so much about writing code and such. So in Xcode, let's start with a new project. And in Xcode, you can select many different things. So you can see you can create iOS app, a watch OS app for the Apple Watch, tvOS, and for macOS, and there's a cross-platform for building games. So we're going to focus on doing an iOS app here. And here you have a single view app, a game, augmented reality app. Basically, what this means is some kind of starting point. So if you select the single view app, they're just going to have a single screen. If you select instead a tabbed app, you will get tabs, but that's just a starting point. You can remove and change whatever you want. So even if you select a single view app, of course you can add to make it a game, or you can add augmented reality. All right, so let's say I want a single view app. Next. Here is product name. Is the name of your app. So let's call this our first app. Your team is your development team. Here you can select and log into your development account. Your organization name, your organization identifier. So this is the ID of your app. When you're just trying things out, it's not very important. However, when this will be used later on when you're going to upload to the App Store. So for now, not very important, but use the standard way to use it is a reversed domain order. So let's say com.company.firstapp. So here they use the organization identifier, then add that to a ID, which we can change later if you want to. Language, we want to do Swift, but you can select Objective-C, and even if you select Swift, you can add Objective-C later and vice versa. Here we have a few things. If you want to directly use core data for storing data, you can add that later on if you want. And here is for adding tests, both unit and UI tests. But let's not add those now. Let's next and just create that somewhere. All right. The first thing we see here, when this is selected, we get basically what we just entered. Here is the display name, what's going to be seen under the icon, and here we have the version and build, things like that. And here we have which development team we're connected to. Deployment target, this defaults to the latest version. So right now it's 11.2. So this is what's required of the end user. So you probably want to lower that. So let's see, I want an app that's just requires iOS 10, for instance. Devices, universal means work through both iPad and iPhone. iPad, just iPad. iPhone means iPhone, but you can run iPhone apps on an iPad, but it will be in a bad layout. It would just be a scaled up version. And here you can set which way this app should support. If it's portraits, just standing up, or landscape left right if it's rotatable. Yes, so that's those parts. Then up here we have capabilities. This is for adding, for instance, iCloud, push notification. If I add this, you see here that it's working, adding push notification feature to your app ID. What happens in the background is that it connects to your development team on Apple Developer and creates this app ID and then creates add push notification to it. All that happens in the background. So here we have a bunch of different things like in-app purchase and things like that. So if we want to add these things, we need to add them here. Interesting things here are push notification, in-app purchase. If we want to do some background modes, it needs to be added here. Resource tags is about dynamically downloading content if needed. Info, this info here is the same as this info here. It's about some settings for your app. Here you need to add things like if you're gonna allow the user to take a photo with the camera, and you ask the user, do you want to allow this app to access the camera? It's here you enter this little text that says, do you allow? Then we come to build settings. Here we have a million different settings. You really often don't need these. It's for a few cases, perhaps when working with something, it says change this or that setting, but you hardly ever have to do anything here. Build phases, don't really need to do anything here, or build rules. It happens basically automatically. So all right, so that's just the settings part. Then we have a few files. This entitlements file just popped up because I tested to add push notification, so that got created. Right, some code. app-delegate.swift. This is code related to the app as a whole. So here we have things that are not really seen on the screen yet. Like here's a function that has something about did finish launching. So here, something about now the app has been launched, what's gonna happen? Here we usually see such things as if we want to add perhaps some kind of analytics or something like that. Here's the setup for that. Also perhaps if you want to add push notifications directly into the app, perhaps add that here. Other parts here are what happens when the application did enter background, perhaps do something then. Will enter foreground, so it comes back. So if you press the home button and then resume the app, that's about there. And things like that. And here they will also see things like if you enable other apps to open your app, you have functions related to that, or perhaps you have a push notification. You can have that here. The thing is, with a default project, they create a view controller file. And this is a view controller. This is code for a view. So this is a UI view controller type of class. It's a misleading name. It doesn't have to be called view controller. This could be the start or something. It's just what it calls it from the beginning. So this is code for something called a view controller. Then here we have the storyboard. This is the layouting. A storyboard is a layout piece where you can lay out one or more views. Let's just do something here. Let's add a label to the screen like this. Some text here. And let's add a button. Do stuff. Like this. So here we can define our layout like this. And how to create layouts like this we'll go over that in a separate video. But here we define layout. And we can see here that this is a view controller, a screen. If we select this up here, and when we select anything here, we can begin by selecting the label. We can select here, we have this little ruler thing, is to define size. And here, if we set layout rules, we will see those here. We have this one, attributes inspector, for setting different settings. So let's see here, it's the font is the system font 17 in size. We can make that smaller, make it bigger, and things like that. Let's center align it and things like this. So when we select something, this part is for setting different settings and attributes. This part is mostly not used in this part, as here we can set what some place where it is used is here in the view controller. We select this, there we say class view controller. This means that, hey, my code is in view controller. View controller, this one. So it's to define this layout is connected to this code. In assets, we have our app icon, and in here we can drag all of our different assets needed. Here we can have, for instance, images in different sizes. So image for, we had some kind of icon, then we can have it in different sizes for iPad, for higher resolution iPhones or lower resolution iPhones. And by adding them here in different resolutions, when we upload the app, the correct images will be attached to the app that the user later on downloads. But here we add our images. Launch screen is actually another screen. So this is the launch screen. This is what the user will see when the app starts. We can basically lay out it as usual, with a little exception. We have no code here. So we can't have something animating or doing something. This is just for the very first start. The info, this is what we saw earlier. We have some settings regarding the app. Now, if we look up here, we have some different icons. So this is the project navigator for selecting different files. The next part here is the source control navigator. So this is about working with version control, Git. And here we can have our branches and tags. Now we don't have any remotes. But here we have this part. And up in the menu here we have source control for commit, push, pull. So in Xcode 9, the support for Git has become much better. And this icon is new for Xcode 9. Next part is symbol navigator. It's about, instead of watching things as a file hierarchy, you can see it like this, that in the view controller I have these functions. Here I have view did load, like this. It's basically another way to select which part you want to see. You have here, you have search. So here you can search in the project. Next part here is about warnings and errors. You can do here var something unused is 7. Here we get a warning. This variable is never used. So here we have a warning that says that it's not used. Next part is about testing. We didn't click in about unit test and UI test, so nothing is shown, but down here we can add unit test and UI test. Testing is a somewhat big area, so we will talk about that another time. But this is where that is. This is about debugging. This is about breakpoints. So if you set breakpoints somewhere, they can be shown here and be handled here like this. And the next part here is about it's a report navigator. It's about, here you can see what sessions did your app run, some kind of errors. If you run testing, you will see the result of testing and things like that. So that's that part. Up here we have, this is the standard editor. This is what you usually see. You have the assistant editor. If I click this here while editing a code file, I will just see here, I will see the interface of it. Usually not. We're gonna come back to that very soon because it's mostly used when we use the storyboard. But we also have here the version editor. So here, seeing diffs from this is our current, but the commit that was created when the project was created, here you can see that this part here, something unused variable, this has been added. So this is for version control. And here we have for showing and hiding the left part, the bottom part, which is used for logging, and this right part. Let's go back to the storyboard, like this. We're going to do something very, very simple. We're going to do that, click this button, this text changes. That's what we're going to do. And while we do this, now I just have this on the screen, but let's say that I want more space. Let's say, hey, this can show this. I click here, I can see how this is shown on different screen sizes. It's like, oh, and on iPad, this is very big. But if I work here on just this layout, I don't really need the files and I don't need much else. And if I've been running, I don't need this down here. I need lots of space for layout. A good thing to do then, we can go through the menus a bit also. New is for creating, the file is for creating new files and things like that. Here we have edit, we don't really need. In view, here we can, most of these are the buttons we just went through, but in the menu. Here you can use this to see what different key bindings there are. You can also do that in preferences. But one thing we can do here is we can show the tab bar. We can have tabs. And one thing I do sometimes is to have one tab, add another tab. So I got one tab here for layouting. Just lots of space for layouting. But then, different tab, right here, writing code. Space for code. This one, space for layouting. You can also do like this, that if you double click something, it will open in a new window, which can be good if you have a second screen. Then you can move a window to a second screen. Let's see, where were we? We were in view, then we have navigate. Here is to move to different things. We have refactoring now in Xcode 9 for Swift. Then we have here product for run, which we also have here. And then we have archive is for archiving the app for sending to App Store. For debugging, here's for source control for Git, and for window. Here we usually use this for going to different things. Organizer is for seeing our archived apps that we're going to upload. Devices and simulators for showing our different simulators and connected phones. So those are basically the different parts. Let's do a very simple app. So here, now, I don't need to do this. I just need to select my other tab here, main storyboard. The code in this is defined as here in view controller. Now I need some code that says click this, change this text. Then we're going to do two very simple things. Now when I have this selected, I click this up here, the assistant editor. Now it shows something very different here. It shows the interface. We don't want that. Let's do a manual, select automatic. So now I can see this is the code for this layout. To be able to change the text, I need to have a reference for it. To make something happen when I click on this, I need to have a function for it. Let's begin by adding up here. Let's click the label, hold Control, click, drag. Now I get a line. Now I can select here in the code, where am I gonna drop this a reference. Just release, then we connect an outlet. So an outlet is connection between thing on the screen and code. Let's call this the label. And here you can see it's a type of UI label. So now we have a connection. If we hover over this, it highlights this, and you can see here it's called the label. We can also see here in the hierarchy of things added, we have the label. Let's add here in the bottom view.didLoad function that is called when the app, when this screen is shown. When this view controller is loaded, this is called. But let's now select the button and say Control, click, drag down here. I don't need an outlet here. I would need an outlet if I was going to change the button. I'm not going to do that. Perhaps if I want to change what's on it, if I want to enable, disable it, or something like that. But no, let's change this to an action. I want something to happen. So click button, what's going to happen? Let's make a function called let's click. What we have here, type any, means I can get a reference to which button has been clicked if I want to. Event touch up inside means basic, you clicked the button. You clicked and released your finger in this button. There are other things such as I could do touch down. So when I directly touch down, something's going to happen. But let's just do the normal touch up inside, connect. And let's write some code. And let's say, hey, the label, your text is now changed text, like this. Now we have made our very own app, like this. I'm just gonna kill this so I can run it again. Now, here's my phone with a little globe, which means that my phone is nearby. It's not connected to my computer. Something that is new in Xcode 9 is that we can actually run things on phones or iPads over Wi-Fi, which is very good. And if we're going to build something using augmented reality and things like that, we don't want to be limited by a cable. So let's say here, I want to run this on an iPhone 8 and run. And now it's compiling and getting ready. Build succeeded. Now it's launching our app. Like this. Here it is. We didn't have selected a launch screen, so nothing is being shown. Now, our app has started. Some text here, do stuff. Great. Now I'm gonna click the button. Yay, changed text. So this is a basic introduction to what Xcode does. How to write code and how to do layout and things like that will be available in other videos. But this is the first part to make Xcode a little bit less intimidating. Please subscribe if you like this. There will be a bunch of new videos coming out over the near future. And if you have any suggestions on what to cover, please let me know in the comments. Thank you.